So when we last spoke in January, it was the day after you had the ruling in favour of you, that you had been libelled by a certain person who falsely, and we can say that legally, falsely accused you of paedophilia on social media in 2020, alongside a former trustee of Stonewall. It's been a few months. How are you feeling now?
Fabulous. Wondering when the check's going to clear?
There was a word that you used, and I'm not going to try and say it was a German word.
Schadenfreude.
Can you talk us through that word?
I think that, if I understand correctly, it's taking joy in someone else's suffering. I'm not going to say I've been reveling in his unraveling and decline over the last year, but there has been a small part of me that's taken a bit of satisfaction in it. It's been crazy. To be honest with you, considering how much time I spent thinking about Laurence Fox over those 3 years before we got our judgment, it's amazing how little I think about him now. It's so nice. I never have to look at his Twitter feed. I never have to see what he said, if he said something about me. And it just feels like he's just gone into like a little corner of my mind where I put him because I won.
Something that I think a lot of gay people particularly resonated with is that slur has quite dark meaning behind it that goes beyond what it actually is. Can you maybe talk to why it's so toxic, especially when used against members of the queer community?
Yeah, well, it's just a trope as old as the hills. Calling gay men a danger to children is nothing new. And he said it about me specifically because he knew it would be the most damaging thing he could say. It's a horrible accusation, and he knew what he was doing, and he was trying to destroy me with it. Since he's done it, it's been, as we were talking about earlier, it's been so much more normalized. And I get called a groomer on Twitter. Oh my, like more times than I can count now. If I write a piece for Metro, the comments under that are just going to be calling me freak, nonce, disgusting, pedo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's, I think, all quite new over the last few years. And a lot of people have been emboldened by people like Laurence Fox, who kind of blazed a path of bigotry. So yeah, it was very important to take a stand against it. I don't think that me winning against him is going to do anything about like the hordes that he has unleashed, but I think symbolically it was really important, and personally it was really important for me to stand up for myself.
What do you, there's a lot of people online, as you've just touched on, that throw these kind of things around, and unfortunately we're not in a position where all those people can be either identified or punished, if you want to use that word, as sued, whatever it might be. What do you hope people do take away from the ruling that you won?
Well, that if someone does it and they've got their name attached and they got a lot of followers, you can take them down. We might not be able to stop the faceless trolls, but we can stop the big people, the big outlets, from doing it. And I think that is really powerful, because it sets, it draws a line in the sand of where acceptable debate is. And I mean, I don't think we should have needed a reminder that pedophilia was on the wrong side of that line, but apparently he did.
But it sets a precedent.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the precedent was already set. Terrorist and pedophile are two of the worst things you can say about someone in terms of defamation. They're like the examples that you give when you say, like, what are the worst things you could say to someone in terms of defamation? So he shouldn't have needed that reminder. Yes, the precedent has been reset. It is a reminder for everyone. And I think it is also important now, there's been a few defamation cases that have happened on Twitter specifically now. And, historically it was the province of, suing a newspaper that's printed something. It's very clear now that if someone with a huge following says something about you on Twitter, that's just as bad.
What do you think it means for drag performers? Because I think drag performers have been subjected so much over the last few years, and especially with the rise of Drag Race and that becoming mainstream and or mainstream, should I say? What does it mean for you to have this victory, just for, aside from even LGBT people, just for actually your community of fellow queens, kings, and other performers?
Yeah, again, I would just say that it feels really great. It feels like we took back a little bit of ground and created a little bit of safe space for ourselves. I don't want to go much farther than that, really, because I think that, when it comes to my physical safety in and around the streets, this actually doesn't do anything for that, sadly. And that's still a present reality, but we'll take our victories where we can.